Hi, this is Mike, and today is January 17th, 2024. And we're going to be talking today about the felony charge of issuing a false certificate, which can be a trap. And I'm going to show you today how to avoid this Class E felony snare you could unexpectedly fall into. You might be surprised at how people will ask you to notarize things, and you might realize that there's some untruth involved in what you're notarizing. Let me explain how that happens. And this is something that actually has happened to me more than once in my career working at law firms. People ask you to notarize things that they think are just going to make it more convenient, like change dates and things like that, so they don't miss deadlines. And it could be a snare for you to fall into trying to be a team player. Let me talk about that. Okay, so first of all, we are simply a witness to signatures as notaries public. We're not detectives. We do not question people. We are not trained as document experts. It is not your job to read their entire document that they're asking you to notarize. It's your job to witness their signature at the very end. And it's not your job to judge content truthfulness. However, we are responsible for knowing the purpose of the document, to ensure we are not notarizing something we are prohibited from notarizing, namely, one, someone's signature to their own will, unless we are also a lawyer as the notary, two, contracts of marriage, and three, making a government-issued document photocopy into a certified original. There's other things you're not allowed to notarize that are on the exam. I'm not going to get into great detail. But just showing you these three major ones, which, by the way, people call all the time about, you have to always read a little bit of the document, like the title, and if it doesn't have one, you have to start reading the first paragraph of it or further to see what the nature of it is. And then you might see something in there that you realize is not truthful, which wasn't your job to analyze the document, but it can happen that way. And if it's any one of these three things, of course you're going to decline to notarize, because it's illegal for a notary to notarize these three things. And that's not the topic of today, so we're not going to get really a lot into those. Okay, so let's review what the penal law says for a Class E felony, which is when you're issuing a false certificate, which is a Class E felony under the notary license law. So for a Class E felony, the term shall be fixed by the court and shall not exceed 4 years. It says up here that it shall be at least 3 years. That means it's 3 to 4 years. Okay? Now, something is different in the general laws of New York State that are not updated in the New York notary license law. So issuing a false certificate, that means notarizing something when you know it's not true. A person is guilty of issuing a false certificate when being a public servant, which is a notary public, authorized by law to make or issue official certificates or other official written instruments, and with an intent to defraud, deceive, or injure another person. He or she issues such instrument or makes the same with an intent that it be issued, notarizing it, knowing that it contains a false statement or false information. Okay, so issuing a false certificate, again, is a Class E felony inside the notary license law. For people that are studying for the exam, you have to answer 3 to 4 years, a minimum of 3, a maximum of 4 for a conviction of issuing a false certificate. But I want you all to know, for those of you folks that are not taking the exam, that you're already licensed, that the notary law book is not current. They haven't updated it with this new New York State statute that has been written since, that says for any Class E nonviolent felony, there's no jail, probation, and it could be a 1 1/3 to 4 years. So it's possible to not get jail on these. It's not mandatory sentencing. Like it doesn't say everything in the notary license law. So once again, this is the real world, and in the notary law, for you folks taking the exam, always answer 3 to 4 years. Okay? So anyway, it is obvious that if you are involved in notarizing something with an intent to defraud, deceive, or injure another person, you are doing it knowingly and are now directly involved in a crime. What about when people you know personally or work with directly are asking you to notarize something you are not personally involved in, didn't create it, you didn't really mean to read, but you had to see what was the nature of it so you didn't violate the other things we're not allowed to notarize, and you have no direct benefit from it, but you're by accident you see that it's fraudulent. Is it possible you could feel pressure to look the other way because you feel duress where you work or from your neighbor? Examples. A, when you notarize something that gets recorded, it's later discovered to be fraudulent, you will not be held accountable as long as you had no prior knowledge of the fact it was false in nature. So in that case, you are potentially a witness for the state if there are criminal court proceedings and the defense challenges the efficacy of the Notary Act. They could call you the state witness and try to get their client off accused of this by trying to trip you up. It doesn't happen very often, but it's a potential situation. So this is why it is extremely important that your logbook is kept consistently and that you maintain the records for 10 years as per the new statute that just came out. So if you're not journaling, you must journal or log everything and keep it for 10 years. And that's good because that keeps, that's a record that protects you. So another example is, what if you're notarizing something for someone you know, like a neighbor or work with, and you somehow realize they are asking you to notarize is untruthful? You might know your neighbor's business. It might have something to do with family court. You don't know the different situations that could arise, but there's a lot of things that you could have knowledge on, and then you see that you're notarizing something that isn't true. And especially at work, right? You see things that aren't true. So in this case, you are not benefiting directly from what will be recorded, and you just happen to notice the foregoing document, that's the legal language for whatever you're notarizing, is untruthful. How could this happen? So here we have a coworker saying don't say anything, and it could be a bad neighbor that's breaking the law, and you happen to know a little bit of their business and you see something they're asking to notarize is inaccurate. So you might happen to see something untruthful in the document, in which case you will be in a situation where you could be vulnerable to issuing a false certificate. Once again, it's not your job to interrogate the people or police the document, but you fell into that. It's like a trap. So this is rare, however, potentially possible position to find yourself in, because if you realize the document is untruthful, you must decline notarizing it to avoid being compromised. So while you never have had an intent to defraud, deceive, or injure another person, proceeding to notarizing it, knowing at that moment that it contains a false statement or false information, like dates, that's a big one, could possibly be considered issuing a false certificate. Watch out for backdating. So people, they don't want to miss a deadline. They backdate things. You got to really be careful for that one, all right? So some of you have no problem saying no in those circumstances, probably most of you. However, it is an extreme case. Some of you might feel vulnerable and under duress to say no to the person that can make your life miserable or even threaten your livelihood. It is good that you have all seen this video now so that you do not fall into that trap that we just described. Prepare yourself mentally and emotionally in case this happens to you in the future. For the record, this has happened to me more than once working in a law firm in New York, as they asked me to look the other way, to be a team player and act like it's no big deal. They'll try to say it's trivial, but nothing's trivial when your life is on the line and your good name. So, if you do it once, they'll keep asking you. So stand your ground politely and firmly so that they respect you when you say no, and look for another notary. Don't be confrontational, and earn their respect, and stand firm, and they will respect that as long as you handle it that way. For those of you that like saying no, don't get in their face and scream no and start yelling at them. That won't be good for you, right? Okay. So, once again, for those of you that are watching this video and you have needs of notary supplies, free membership in the New York State Notary Association, fast online traditional licensing system, an online licensing course, remote online notary RON upgrade. You can't upgrade to a RON until you've had the traditional notary license. And the Notary Procedures Hotline, you can always call at 347-427-9091 extension 1 and ask questions. Once you're licensed and you're out there notarizing during business hours, we will get back to you. Or you can email us at info@notaryeverything.com. Visit the website www.howtobecome-a-notary-in-NY for your supplies, your membership, your licensing courses, and Notary Public stamps, seals, logbooks, and supplies like the license wall display. Isn't it time to get a wall display and put it up on the wall and let them know that you passed this exam? That more people fail them than pass. Of course, with our course, we have less than 1% of our students taking advantage of our guarantee that it's a free repeat if you fail. We've had less than 1% for 20 years running now. And you're going to get a discount on these supplies at a time when everything is running up and inflation's running rampant. Man, you can't even get a shopping cart of food now for what it was a few years ago. It's double. It's getting crazy. All right, I know I'm preaching to the choir. You're all experiencing this in your real life. And I'm just grateful that you guys are watching our videos. So help support us in creating these videos by referring coworkers, friends, and people you care about to get another Notary Public or 2 license in your place of employment. Help them upgrade their resumes with increased employability and better careers, and for discounted supplies in these times of seemingly never-ending inflation. When will it end? So please subscribe, comment, like, share, hit that notification bell, and that way you'll be the first to see these videos when they come out, and we'll keep them coming for you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.